They say visiting Coimbra is a lesson in the history of Portugal, and that's exactly what we did in part 1. We explored the old town and learned about the history and traditions of this academic city. Now, as we segue into the second part of this documentary, we discover that, apart from teaching us a history lesson of Portugal, Coimbra also teaches us a lesson about love. You see, love is a many splendid thing, as the experts would say. Personally, when I speak about love, I also speak about nature. Love is nature, and nature is love. I am personally drawn to cities with this rooted affinity to nature, to green spaces, parks and gardens, and Coimbra gives you this in spades. Another treasure in Coimbra is the University Botanical Gardens, just a short walk down the Acropolis-like hill. Thankfully, it's open to public, so you can go for a splendid walk around the slice of bucolic heaven in the city. You'd probably consider this place quite romantic, and that's quite fitting. This garden was created during the age of Romanticism, the late 18th century, under the tutelage of the Marquês of Pombal, who was arguably the most influential figure of the time. My favourite part is walking through the bamboo forest, or what they call as the Bamboo Cathedral. It felt for a moment I was back in Asia. And that's perhaps the point, as this botanical garden is planted with various and exotic species of trees from all over the world. One of the most beguiling aspects of Coimbra is that the city is quite literally at the doorstep of a stunning countryside. You're surrounded by all these rolling hills and relaxing natural scenery. Head towards the Botanical River and enjoy a truly refreshing riverside frolic. Having this walk made me appreciate Coimbra even more. That this city achieves a contemplative balance between that wealth of history and this beautifully lush landscape around you. We took this route across this modernist glass-panelled footbridge, sublimely crossing over the equally glassy Mondego River. Built in 2006, this bridge is apparently an architectural gesture to a significant story in Coimbra, one that's deeply rooted in the subject of love. It's known to be the bridge that doesn't meet. And that should somehow give you a clue of how this love story ends. It's a love story known to all Portuguese narrative and history. By turns romantic, bittersweet, and then succeedingly tragic, dark, and vindictive. The story of a married prince, soon to become King of Portugal, and his forbidden love affair with a lady in waiting. The story of Pedro and Inês. This is what I know of the story, and since it's a well-trodden tale, one that's been told so many times throughout the history, that some parts have become stuff of legends, it's nevertheless based on a true-to-life tragic tale that happened here in Coimbra. So let me tell you the story. It's the 14th century in Coimbra. A young Portuguese prince, Pedro, heir to the throne of Portugal, was married off to Constanza of Castile by his father, King Afonso IV, in a bid to secure the alliance between the Portuguese and the Spanish. But the prince's heart wasn't set for his wife, but rather on his wife's lady-in-waiting, the beautiful Inês de Castro, daughter of a Galician aristocrat. And thus began a long forbidden and secret love affair. Pedro and Inês were both madly in love with each other, and things became complicated when Pedro's wife Constanza died of childbirth in 1345, and the ill-fated lovers began living together in secret. An open secret, that is, which Pedro's father, King Afonso IV, and the entire court knew, who were all opposed to the relationship. Soon enough, Inês was banished from the court. Let's just say it was the scandal of the time, and despite of all the political pressure, Pedro refused to remarry anyone and insisted only of Inês. Which angered his father even more, and Pedro kept living in secret with Inês in the Santa Clara monastery, and here in Quinta das Lágrimas. Throughout the years when they were together, Pedro and Inês produced 3 children, and this displeased the king even further. worried about the Portuguese crown being tainted by Inês de Castro's family bloodline. So, to end it once and for all, in 1355 the king sent assassins to murder Inês in the location of Quinta das Lagrimas, much to Pedro's despair and pain. Pedro never forgave his father and led an uprising against the king, a revolt in which the son lost. However, in a turn of events, the aging King Afonso died shortly thereafter, which made Pedro King of Portugal in 1357. And just when you think, okay, the story probably ended there, Pedro became king and he quietly grieved for his lost lover. Nope, Pedro ain't done with his detractors yet. This is the part where this love story became a tale of revenge. Seething with fury and profound grief, King Pedro sought retribution by ordering the arrest of Inês's assassins and executed all of them. And there's a twist to this plot. Apparently it turns out that Pedro and Inês were secretly married right after when his wife Constanza died. So, as a power move, King Pedro proclaimed Inês posthumously as Queen of Portugal, and, as legend has it, he ordered to exhume her body from the grave and then threw a crowning ceremony for the entire court to kneel before the dead queen and kiss the queen's decomposing hand. King Pedro then ordered Inês's body to be moved 60 miles from Coimbra to the royal monastery of Alcobaça, where two magnificent Gothic tombs were built, facing each other, laid inside Portugal's most striking and perhaps most stunning cathedral. This was King Pedro's way of ensuring that he and Inês would be together in the afterlife. This love story became so inspiring, so astounding that it inspired writers, poets and painters. This undying love between Pedro and Inês had been immortalized in these gardens, in this cathedral, this bridge, this city of Coimbra. A visit in Quinta das Lagrimas on the other side of the city takes you to the heart of Pedro and Inês's story. This 12-hectare garden bore witness to this consummated love affair, the very same place where that love had been denied of its mortal existence. Here we can still see Fonte das Amores, the fountain of love, where Pedro would send wooden boats containing private letters as they would float towards the Santa Clara convent, where Inês would read Pedro's secret love letters. And despite the tragedy here at Fonte das Lagrimas, the Fountain of Tears, it's worth noting that due to the headstrong pursuit of Pedro and Inês of their undying love, their story is the one that's been immortalized here, and it's precisely stories like this that give so much weight and meaning to places like Coimbra. We took this soulful walk to our eventual terminus at Quinta das Lagrimas Palace, which is now a hotel and restaurant, and we tried to recover from this deeply heartbreaking story with something lighter, some tapas for snacks, and they even have a cocktail named after Pedro and Inês as a loving tribute. On our last day of our trip, since we were in central Portugal, we want to discover nearby areas, which could be great suggestions for you whenever you're in Coimbra and you'd want to take a little side trip. And we knew exactly where to go first. We're going to Aveiro today, so we'll see you there. At roughly 40 miles northwest of Coimbra is the maritime town of Aveiro. Why we came here? Well, Aveiro seems to be recommended as a place to see on this side of the Atlantic coast. The town itself features a network of canals, and especially these times, if you can't go to Venice, then perhaps Aveiro will do for you. Where the Italians have gondolas, the Portuguese have these colourful moleseiro boats, which were used to harvest seaweeds in the past, but are now used to offer boat rides to anyone who wants to see Aveiro. This is the perspective we chose to see Aveiro, as we get to see both the old and new town, sailing calmly and peaceably along the waters, and it makes for quite a pleasant little boat trip on a beautiful sunny day. And the next on our trip is Costa Nova. Surrounded by coastal lagoons and beaches, Costa Nova makes for a wonderful seaside getaway. But do come for the colourful, vibrant haystack houses, which used to be fishermen houses, and they give the windswept Costa Nova such vitality and energy. And who wouldn't want to own one of these striped beach houses? I would. Afterwards, we then hit a local spot for lunch, and we couldn't have chosen a more excellent seafood restaurant, Canastra do Fidalgo.
Hey everybody, we're at Canastra do Fidalgo, one of the best restaurants here in Costa Nova, Portugal, and we're getting the specialty of the house, which is grilled fish. Today is dorada, which is sea bream, a really nice light white fish. And along with it, if you want to take a look, we have the tomato rice. It's a traditional Portuguese tomato rice, kind of like a risotto. We have homemade French fries. We have the migas, which is like a bread stuffing with beans and greens, and then a local salad with local tomatoes. Portuguese tomatoes are fantastic, so I'm gonna have a little taste. Oh well. Super flavorful. It's seasoned perfectly, just the right amount of salt. Let's try some of the tomato rice. It's got a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of that acidity from the tomato. Such a good accompaniment to the fish. We're gonna enjoy this meal. Alright, so we have a traditional Portuguese cake called bolo de bolacha, which means cookie cake. And it's actually made from a whole bunch of broken up cookies. There's usually a coffee flavored sauce. This one has some sort of cream on top that looks like it has egg yolks in it, a popular ingredient here. And it has little espresso beans as well, so let's see how it tastes. It's usually quite crunchy and a little bit soft. This one's really good because it's not too sweet. And the cookies are still fresh, so it has that nice crunch, along with some of the cookies that have been soaked up a little bit more. So it's a really good version of this cake. I highly recommend, if you're gonna try it, get it here.
Now, for the last leg of our trip, it's time to take you somewhere magical. Before heading back to Coimbra, we stopped by to discover the hidden secrets of the Buçaco National Forest, a well-protected and magnificently lush ancient forest, which is a national monument in Portugal. And right at the heart is the extravagantly atmospheric Buçaco Palace. Immediately, we felt this place to be incredibly special, as though we stumbled into a living, breathing fairy tale. Sumptuous and yet mysterious, this palace was commissioned to be built beside an old Carmelite convent, sharing the same architect responsible of Quinta da Regaleira in Sintra, Luigi Manini, here evoking Manuelin and paying tribute to the Knights Templar and the Age of Discoveries. This was meant to be the summer house and hunting lodge of the last Portuguese royal family in the 19th century, but right after the monarchy was exiled, this was turned into a continuously operating luxury historic hotel. We spent the rest of our time in awe of this spectacular place. We wished we had more time exploring this forest, but at that moment we were already content watching the sunset gloriously casting its last rays over this palace. When we headed back to Coimbra, a series of questions ran through my head. why do we even bother to visit places like this? Why do we have to look up and learn about stories and elaborately explore the past? Because it's precisely the past, precisely these stories we hear and learn that give meaning to these places. Coimbra isn't Coimbra without its history, without its stories. If there's anything we learn, time lends everything to place. All of it, the mundane, the misery, but also the significance and the beauty. And we choose to see the beauty. And this is why we come to places like Coimbra, because it has a story to tell. It's been such a pleasure creating these Coimbra videos, and putting this documentary together has been such a source of joy and happiness. And I do hope you enjoy these videos and learn something from them. And making these videos is my way of creating something positive and a deep appreciation of places. So thank you for watching the In the Mood for Life series so far and helping me appreciate these places and these stories around us. Do subscribe and stay tuned for more videos coming soon. Here's a clue of the next episode. Wine. Lots of wine. Catch you all soon.